Hey guys, this is Louie. So, for those of you who've been with me for a while, you know a little bit about me already. I'm in my late 30s. I've been sober now for about 4 years. Um, I'm a dad, a husband. I got brothers and sisters. I'm obviously a son of, a mother and father. Um, I've been clean for about 4 years. I used to abuse a lot of different substances over the years. Marijuana, alcohol, cocaine, a variety of different types of psychedelics. It's been a heck of a journey. I've never been happier in my life since I got clean. Like I said, used for about 17 years, clean for about 4. I'm doing a series of recordings in this podcast to potentially help other people who may be struggling. I know that I needed as much influence as possible to get to the point where I had enough, and I thought that it was time to make a change. So hopefully I can help folks out who find themselves in that position. This is also for people who have already, achieved their sobriety and are maintaining it. Third subset of people this may help potentially, who I hope it does help, would be the people who, the normies, the people who don't struggle with addiction, the people who are capable of just having a beer or just smoking a joint and then they can stop, whatever. Hopefully this helps them to gain a perspective of what, things are like from our side of the fence. I know that throughout my addiction, it caused me a great deal of pain. It also caused pain for those who were around me, my loved ones, people who cared about me. So, I'm hoping to pay it back. I met a lot of great people along the way that helped me get clean. I want to help them out if possible. If you find this insightful and helpful, please take a moment to, if you're on iTunes, please take a moment to rate it and review it. Please take a moment to share it with others. You can rate and review by scrolling down to the ratings and review section on iTunes. Like I said, share it with others and get it out there. So now that all the housekeeping items are out of the way, so tonight I'm going a little bit off the beaten path. Typically what I do is I write out in like an elaborate, detailed outline format what I'm going to be discussing. So tonight I haven't really done that, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So I was cleaning my office out, and I found a letter that I wrote to myself when I was in my my intensive outpatient program. And this letter has to deal with, kind of what I've achieved since, what I've achieved since, getting clean and sober. So when I wrote this letter, it was probably 5 or 6 weeks into my sobriety. And, I found it in my office. It was dated to me. They mailed it to me. It was addressed and written in my own handwriting, so I haven't actually opened it yet, but I think this is it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up and read it and share it with you guys. And, I'll probably pause throughout and share my thoughts about it. This is going to be a blast from the past, man. All right. So my sober date is June 9th of 2015. This is dated July 28th of 2015. It starts out, Louie, what's happening? At this time, you've been clean for 49 days. This letter will serve as a record for all the benefits of your newfound sobriety. First, I'll cover for you all the benefits associated with your familial relationships. Your relationships with your daughter, your son, and your wife are vastly improved. You are more consistent with the kids and have more patience for them. You're less irritable as well as you're also more happy. You and your wife are much closer, and you communicate better. You also no longer have to worry about getting caught by the children and setting a bad example for them. Now when you tell them about the dangers of being an addict, it is no longer do as I say, not as I do. You're setting the right example for them, and there is no more hypocrisy. You no longer have to believe your mother and father, and your sister no longer has an excuse to isolate you from her family. You get to let go of the guilt and shame of carrying these things inside of yourself. All right, so in that paragraph, the first thing that sticks out to me is where I say that I'm less irritable. When I make these recordings, I'm super calm. It's late at night. There's nothing going on. There's no stressors. But that's not the typical operating mental state of Louis. Louis can be accused of being kind of an aggressive and intense guy at times. When I was using, I was a total mess. I was a rageaholic, and I would have fits and outbursts of just extreme anger, and I was way unpredictable, And the funny thing was, I used to think that my use helped me with that, but it didn't. It actually made it worse. And the reason I know that is because when I got clean, guess what? I was still an aggressive and intense guy, but I did not have fits of rage the way I used to when I was using. So it's very counterintuitive. I used to smoke pot thinking that it calmed me down, but what it really did was what's the way to describe it? What it really did was it made it so that I expected the world to be in line, and then when things happened unexpectedly that interfered with me being high, I would flip out. I would just completely lose it because I wasn't used to dealing with things like that. I kind of have bad handwriting, but I also allude to some of the family relationships with my parents and my sister. So I have an older sister, and we don't exactly have a really close relationship. I'm not sure what is going on there. I suspect potentially it may be over my substance abuse and also my life of crime in the past, and she wants me to keep me isolated from her family to protect them. That's fine, but that's no longer an excuse for that kind of thing, And I genuinely hope that we can improve that relationship, but I don't really know what's the the driving force behind that. But regardless, if it did have to do with substance abuse, that's something that I've dealt with at this point. All right, now I'm going to pick back up. This is paragraph 3. Louis, now you don't have to worry about the police. You don't have to worry about CPS or getting pulled over drunk, high, or with weed in the car. You don't have to worry about bringing weed on vacation either. You're also saving at least $480 to $500 a month. That was how much money I used to spend on weed. You also no longer have to constantly worry about finding weed anymore, and you're free of having to worry about whether or not it will be strong enough to get you high or not. So, first paragraph that I just read there, obviously police are a concern. Obviously, when you have kids, if you get pulled over and you're drunk or you're high, it's potential to get CPS involved, which would be devastating. Nobody's going to take better care of my kids than me. That judgment goes with being an addict. It goes with making those decisions, Saving money, that's a great thing. I also don't have to worry about finding weed or finding quality weed. Sometimes I would find weed and my tolerance levels were so high that it wouldn't be strong enough to actually get me high. That would be super frustrating. It's like a total waste of money. Continuing to read now. You're also no longer a slave. Your life used to revolve around getting high. You used to constantly have to adjust your schedule to accommodate getting high and also getting drunk. This is no longer the case. You're now master of your own destiny. You also sleep better at night and are more well-rested in the morning because when you're going to sleep, you're not drunk every night. For a while there, you'd almost fall asleep in the car on the way to work, being in danger to yourself and others. How thoughtless and unfair was that? The final thing that I'll lay out for you are all the mental benefits that come with sobriety. You've gained mental clarity, motivation, and stability in the last 49 days. Your memory has also begun to improve. Your self-concept and self-confidence are also vastly improved because you no longer see yourself as a stupid stoner / drunk. These are all great things. Please know and understand that if you make the choice to go back to using, you are choosing to give all of these things up. You're doing great. Don't give it up for anything. Sincerely, Louis. Yeah, so in some of the other episodes, I've actually referred to this exercise. It's funny because I didn't actually know where this letter went or where it ended up, but I've got it now. I also talk about the whole, falling asleep on the road on the way to work and worrying I'm going to kill somebody because I'm not well rested and I'm micro-sleeping. So you guys have heard about that before. In here, I also talk about the mental benefits that come with sobriety. So at the time that I wrote this letter, I was still taking a lot of meds for my mental health to deal with, my impulse control and my rage and my anger. When I started going to rehab and started trying to get sober, my psychiatrist told me that if I did that, there was like a 50% chance that I wouldn't have to take meds anymore. So at the time that I wrote this letter, I was still taking medication. But maybe a year after that, I started tapering that off. And when I stopped taking it, with the psychiatrist's help, he was involved in that whole process. When I stopped taking it, we discovered that I didn't need it. That was a byproduct of the imbalance that was caused in my brain as a result of all the use. So like I said, I've referred to this exercise before. For those of you who haven't done it, I would recommend, writing it, write it out, and then when and if you feel the urge to use, it'd be a good idea to break that letter out and actually read it. What I wish I had done now in retrospect is it would have been cool if I wrote that same letter like every year, because the further I get into this, the more and more wonderful, great, and amazing things start to happen. At this point, the podcast is kind of serving as a record of all these kind of great things. Yeah, so that was it. It's going to be a real short episode. I'll probably put out another one later on this week. Today is the evening of July 9th of 2019. We'll be going on a camping trip tomorrow with the wife and kids. I'm starting a new job on Monday. So this is kind of the last hurrah, these last few days. So it's Tuesday. So I've got about 5 more days before I go back to work. So I'll probably crank out another episode, a full episode, 20, 30 minutes long, before I go back to work next week. Normal housekeeping stuff. If this is helpful, perhaps you should consider writing a letter to yourself from time to time. Write it and talk about the things that you've gained. Talk about the negative things that you have lost since you got sober. And then go back and read it from time to time. It's a good inventory to keep because, it keeps that motivation going for us. If you find this helpful or insightful, as always, please share it with others. Also, if you're listening to this on iTunes, please, rate it, review it. If you want to reach me for any reason, whether to provide me feedback, share with me your thoughts, share with me ideas about other topics to cover, you can always reach me at selfinflictedrrl@gmail.com. Regarding future content, I'm kind of on a treadmill at this point, in the sense that I have to keep coming up with new stuff every week, and eventually I'm worried I'm going to run out of stuff. So, it'd be helpful to hear from folks and hear what you'd like to hear me discuss. Again, that email address is selfinflictedrrl@gmail.com. Also working on a website at this point. Unsure when that'll be up. That's really all I had for you guys. I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a great remainder of the week. Louis out.